go to. Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, thank you for sending me the message. I've been going down a little rabbit hole on your episodes, and I was like, this is going to be fun. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we have a good time. And,
yeah.
before we get into your work, I want to know 4 years ago, we were trying to figure out this pandemic. And I know the epicenter began in Seattle. It was kind of a different scene up there. But ultimately, how did you get through the pandemic and how has it changed the way that you do things now?
Well, so I was living in Kirkland, and Kirkland was the first COVID case in the US. So it was right there.
Yeah.
But when it happened, I was actually in Costa Rica. So I
Okay.
wasn't even in the US and so I didn't understand. I didn't understand the severity of what was happening back in, just in general. I was literally living out of a van on a beach,
Okay.
surfing every day.
Yeah.
And then but I had a brick and mortar business in Kirkland, and someone was like, you need to come home. You're not going to be able to get back in the country. Your business is going to close. And so I finally just came back, and yeah, it was just like, okay, I guess here we go. We're doing this thing. I didn't have to close my business right away. So there were many businesses that had to close, and then there were some that had exceptions, and I was able to stay open actually for a little while until it just got so confusing on whether or not it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So I ended up just closing my doors. So 2020 was when I took my whole business online, like
Yeah.
so many other people.
Hmm.
And I also moved to Mexico.
Mm.
um, I just figured, well, if I have to isolate and be alone, then I'll just go somewhere where I'd rather be.
Yeah.
And what was interesting about Mexico is their restrictions were very strict for their local people, but for
Mm.
travelers, they wanted as many people to come as they could because their economy depended on it.
Wow.
So I was able to go and just get a cheap apartment and hang out there. So that's where I
Yeah.
lived for 2020, 2021.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting when it all began, I wasn't doing a lot of interviews like I'm doing right now. I was really in the world of jazz. So I
Mhm.
really amped up my interviews. And I remember one interview in particular. My stepdaughter was out of school, and I interviewed a musician that left New York City and just picked up and sold everything and went to Costa Rica. So we're on the phone, and I would play the interviews on speaker, and she would hear it. And he was talking about being a surfer. You can hear macaws in the background. She to this day talks about that interview because it was so wild because he was a really well-established New York City piano player and he was living his dream. And when this all happened, he was like, I'm out. And that's where he went. So
Totally.
yeah,
I
yeah,
kind of had that I'm out mindset too. And I closed a very profitable business and just packed up everything, put some things in storage and similar story. And it was met with either you're so lucky or you're so brave or what an incredible way to live, or you're so reckless. What are you? So I got both sides of it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, every single person can say that was just a very confusing time to be alive.
but I would think those that moved had more guts than other people because this was a real crossroads for humanity. Everyone had to figure out what their purpose was and where they are and why wait around. I mean, if we're in the middle of absolute uncertainty, which is what we were doing, what do you have to lose?
Exactly. What do you have to lose? Like, if I'm gonna die, I would rather die on the beach.
That's right. Exactly.
But luckily, I didn't
Exactly.
get to that. And I didn't get sick either. So I really just kept living. And I think that helped me, honestly. I think that I wasn't living in fear, and that really helped me stay healthy and have my feet on the ground and, be where I am today.
Yeah, I did a lot of movement during that time. A lot of, there was car rides. Kansas City Metro is quite voluminous, so there was a lot of lakes, a lot of things to go to. So really, it was about watching the world move and
Yeah.
seeing things happen. I think the stagnation,
Yeah.
like I know healthcare workers got hit really hard, but I think all these school kids that stayed home, no socialization, they were basically pushed through with their grades because everybody was being sympathetic. There's levels of them that just got stunted. So I think movement was very key during that time.
Gosh, I could go down a whole rabbit hole on stagnation.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, Yeah. So let's get into what you do right now in 2024 on a daily basis. I'm going to put
Okay.
you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer him?
I just was asked this question by a student of mine, and I said, you typically would tell a child that I'm a unicorn or a mermaid, some whimsical character. So today, on a daily basis, I help people fall back in love with themselves
Yeah.
and find the joy in things. And part of that is playing with the inner child. And so I would tell a child, like, what you go do on a daily basis that makes you really, really happy. I teach adults how to go do that. I teach adults how to be happy in their life again, to be alive in their life again, and to play,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
So what was your brick and mortar company that you had?
Reiki and sound healing. So Reiki
Okay.
is an energy healing
Yes.
practice. Yep. And that's why I would tell kids I'm a unicorn, or,
That's right.
because how do you tell a child that you help work with energy? It's
Uh-huh.
a little ethereal. But it was a Reiki and sound healing practice. I also was a yoga teacher. I still am a yoga. I'm still all of these things, but that's what the brick and mortar was. And so I was getting clients on my table who were just feeling out of sorts in their life, and helped, help them clear that energy
Yeah.
through just energetic massage or through sound healing techniques, breath
So,
work as well.
so I live with three generations of women and they did Reiki on me years ago. And a
Nice.
I was seeing pyramids and a lot of cats, lots and lots of cats. And cats are my thing, but in this particular when I really relaxed and, like, got into it, there was just cats all over the place, and,
Wow.
yeah, I've always and it's funny when I do Zooms, if cats are around, all of a sudden, I'll see a tail pop up, and then it's just like, lo and behold, the cat will be up in front of me, so
Oh, I
it's
have a
cool.
cat downstairs.
Okay. They
He
may
sounds
hear what's going on. Yeah. So
yeah.
so how did you get to this point where you're in the business of helping people, healing people, tapping into energy? Take me back to where you're born and raised and how this all happened.
Well, it certainly did not happen in my upbringing. I was raised in a military family, so I'm a Navy brat. My dad was career military officer. But as a child, I was always in awe of the world and highly sensitive. And I didn't understand it at the time, nor did my family, but so empathic to all energies, to how people were feeling. I would feel something before we even knew why I was feeling it. And then something would match, like my grandmother fell, type thing, and
Yeah.
I would feel it. So as a child, I just was kind of beating dancing to the beat of my own drum and just always connected outside in nature. I grew up in Hawaii, military brought us there, and you couldn't keep me inside. I was always outside. I would get in trouble for missing meals, because I wouldn't come home. And so that was how I grew up, was just in this like awe of the world, but not really understanding why I felt kind of different.
Yeah.
And just, challenging my parents because I hated their rules. I just wanted my own rules. But I was a great student. I was a social butterfly. We moved quite a bit. I transitioned really well. So that was my upbringing. But as I progressed through life and like through career of doing everything I thought I was supposed to be doing, checking all the boxes, getting the bachelor's degree, getting the corporate job, getting the 401k, my mental health just went down, 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 down. And it wasn't until I walked away from all of those things and learned how to surf and like kind of be a beach bum for a moment and
Yep.
got into the field of bartending, and when I really came alive. And it was just dropping the rules that I thought I was supposed to live by
Hmm.
and just have fun,
Yeah.
really, just be
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah.
And however, it was a huge confliction in how I was raised to how I was living. So I constantly was feeling like I was doing something wrong or like disappointing someone. And it was just a really internalized battle that I was at with myself. I mean, my mental health was definitely like an inside job.
Yeah.
And I ended up turning to substances because of that.
Yeah.
So for me, like my drug of choice is alcohol. I did have like a 2-year run with cocaine as well. But it got really dark really fast. And that's when I found Reiki.
Okay.
So it's kind of like getting to the story, or getting to that question, was I was knowing that something was really wrong, but didn't know what to do about it. And my aunt, who is my best friend, um, introduced me to Reiki, and I got on the table, and it made me feel things. It didn't get me sober, but it made me feel things that I had never felt before and have like hope of something, some sort of reprieve.
Yeah.
And then it was a big spiritual awakening alone one night when it was like what I would consider my personal rock bottom, when I had either like a life or death decision ahead of like in front of me, and I chose life.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it clicked, everything clicked, the light bulb went off, and I just have been alive and free ever since, in terms of it was instantaneous, miraculous, spontaneous sobriety. I have not touched a substance ever since, nor have I had a desire for it.
Yeah.
But I obviously had to work on the freedom of all of that noise that led me to that dark place in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's where Reiki came in. I immediately became a certified Reiki practitioner because I was so connected to the practice. I
Hmm.
became a sound bowl practitioner. I was just connected to everything ethereal and woo, and it literally gave me my life back.
So, who's been a hero or an inspiration in that journey for you? Who was that person?
Marianne Williamson,
Yeah.
hands down, she was my personal guru pre-sobriety and post-sobriety. She gave me the concept of love at a capacity and to an understanding that I did not previously have. And then Gabrielle Bernstein, who is kind of like the hip sober chick of my generation, really helped me in the beginning of my journey be like, I can make this identity of an alcohol-free woman feel really freaking cool. And I can be like the woo-woo goddess that I want to be and be accepted in society because she's living proof that it's possible.
Yeah.
So those were two, and Wayne Dyer, of course. I read every one of his books.
Yeah.
So they were all very important to me.
So, you may have already answered this question, but if you could meet one person alive on the planet you find fascinating, who would that be?
Honestly, the first thing that came to mind is Princess Diana.
Okay.
So that's not an option. Obviously, she's not with us anymore, but I see Princess Diana as the epitome of compassion and kindness, and I would love to sit with her and
Yeah.
have a conversation with her. But today, it would be incredible to have a conversation with Marianne,
Yeah.
and just be in her energy and feel all of her vibes.
Yeah. Well, the thing about our lives is that we're surrounded by energy, and you have to help people with their energy and tap into that. How do
Mhm.
you hold yourself together and give the energy that you need for yourself to evolve as a spirit, as a person, and then to
Yeah.
also parlay that out? How do you balance that out in your life?
Yes, balance is very important. For me, grounding techniques is my number one tool. Just feeling my feet on the earth, feeling the way that my body is breathing, connecting outside into nature, even just as simple as stepping out of my house. So when I'm inside, this is the size of my world. As soon as I step outside, my world gets bigger.
Yeah.
And so when I really connect with that sort of bigger life force energy, that I'm not dependent on just my own personal energy. So I can do a phenomenal, like all day healing, multiple, healing sessions, multiple clients in a row, even if I'm feeling subpar or depleted, all of those things, because it's actually not my energy that's doing the work. So as a human, I just have to have the stamina to make it through the day. But really, when I'm open up to that connection of greater life force energy, that's what's really doing the work and moving through me. And then usually at the end of it, you kind of feel supercharged anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would explain this moment where you had to decide whether you were going to live or not. Have
Mhm.
you had that moment with a client where there was a breakthrough client that really made you grow or see what you went through in through a client?
Oh, yeah. There Gosh, I'm so glad you asked this, because for me, there's nothing more satisfying truly than watching my client have a click. And so right now, the majority of my clients are actually in the realm of alcohol and becoming alcohol free. And I work with women. So right now, I'm just working with so many women who are now embodying the identity of an alcohol free woman. And when I see it click, what it does for me is it gives me purpose, and it makes my life matter. Like when I was choosing, life or death, it was, what am I here to do? Who am I here to serve? What is my mission? What is my purpose? And now when I see women experience their own miracles, not because of me, but because they chose it for themselves, and maybe I was their inspiration, motivation, possibility portal, their coach, their guide, then it's like, this is exactly why I'm here and this is what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, being energetically sensitive to what's going on the planet, do you sense us coming out of this pandemic entering a level of enlightenment? Do you see good things happening?
Yeah, I do. I actually things are crunchy right now in the world, right?
Yeah.
Things are super crunchy. It's election season.
Uh-huh.
However, I really feel as if things are shifting. And sometimes we have to go through extreme discomfort to get to the other side. And while I'm not, going to go into political spiel or anything like that, I just truly, truly believe that people are opening their eyes and seeing what they don't want. And so, like, for instance, right now, I think that there's just in our face what we don't want to happen. And when you know what you don't want, then you have to choose what you do want.
Yep.
And when more and more people wake up to what they want, they're going to start taking action, and then that shift can happen.
It's funny how much we can learn from our heroes, but we sometimes learn more from the anti-hero.
Uh-huh.
And that's definitely going on right now. There's definitely a level of lunacy in our political realm that has taken over that we never saw before. There was a level of civility, there was a level of compassion. I was even talking to someone yesterday or the other day about irregardless of what you think about their politics. I remember when Reagan gave the speech when I was a kid after the shuttle exploded, and he was talking about how, the astronauts were going up to um, kiss the face of God or something like that. There was a way that he put it, and he
Yeah.
instantly put everybody at ease. It made us all feel like we were getting comforted by somebody that was a leader. And that thing, no matter what political aisle you're on, is gone. That's not something that happens anymore.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's why right now in these times, I believe too that once we get past what we're going through in this election year, I think things are gonna hopefully get better and we'll have a crystal clear vision of what we're gonna do.
Oh gosh. I mean, one thing's for sure is that, like, our candidates are making people feel very big feelings, and really big feelings are usually what results in action.
Yeah,
And so it will be interesting to see how it all plays out and what transpires from it. But I do believe that with the pandemic and the scare and the stagnation and the isolation that happened, um, some things became more of a priority, and now we're riding on that fuel. I do feel as if it won't be instantaneous and it might feel harder before it gets better, as so many things in life do, but I'm very optimistic, and I don't think it's ignorant or blind optimism. I truly think a huge change is coming.
well, I think in this election, especially with the amount of rights that have been taken away from women, I think women need to have a huge say in this. And
Yeah.
not only their vote, but them convincing those around them, because I don't know that people if they even understand how bad it is. I was just listening to a book about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she was really hopeful because Sandra Day O'Connor was on the bench. There was more of a presence of women up there, and now there's so many things that are different that have changed. But
Yeah.
I think that if the women come out and vote in this election, we're going to get what we want.
Woo. Yeah, go
I
women.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, of all of the things that you've done in your life, you've geographically moved a lot, you've emotionally moved a lot. What are you the proudest of after all of the things that you've done and evolved into?
Honestly, my sobriety is
Yeah.
the thing I'm the most proudest of, because I decided to do it for myself. So there was no outside intervention, there was no ultimatum, there was no bankruptcy or homelessness or, legal repercussions. It was a spiritual bankruptcy that I was experiencing, and I decided to choose differently.
Yeah.
And that showed me that I am so like so much more powerful than I ever believed myself to be. And I'm a collegiate athlete. I was a scholar, all of the things. I had all these accolades, and yet my decision to take my life back, hands down, is to this day my proudest moment.
So if you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, where you're at, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you impart on that young version? And would that version of you listen?
Well, the 18-year-old version of me certainly was still beating to her own drum.
Yeah.
However, she was She was a double life. She was the social butterfly that the party of the or like the whatever, the person of the party. I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
While so painfully insecure and self-conscious. And so 18-year-old version of Lauren was like turning herself over to people and just seeking for love outside of herself. And I would just tell her to stop doing that and to just come back, like self-love first and foremost, like, learn yourself first and foremost, and stop caring what other people think. 18-year-old Lauren was perfectionism, critique, all of those things. And it's just a crippling, suffocating way to live.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how I lived for a very long time.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your
Mhm.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, I think I am just kind and caring and compassionate and here to help people. I truly want to see people succeed. There isn't a competitive bone in my body in terms of competitive with like business, or there isn't enough to go around. I truly want everyone to be alive, awake, and satisfied in their life. And again, because it's riding on the coattails of me knowing how absolutely defeating it is to not be any of those things. And so if I can inspire people to be happy, I mean, people would see me as an inspiration. People would see me as a motivator. They would see me as, a life coach, whatever, if you want to label it, who truly cares about people getting the outcomes that they desire.
Yeah.
That's how my family and friends would see me.
So if we get off this call and a time machine pulls up in front of your house, you can go anywhere in the history of time and see one event with your own eyes, or you could go into the future and see what's going on. What would you choose?
Oh boy. Where would I go?
A lot of stuff.
I know I've been watching all these timepieces, but I'm like, would I really want to go back to those times? I'm not sure. I would be interested in going into the future and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
What happens? I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old niece and nephew. I'm not a mother to human babies myself, but maybe one day I would love to see like what world are these children going to live in? And then maybe come back here and be like, here's what we got to do, guys,
Uh-huh.
because, you know,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
want them to, yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably what I would do.
So if anyone wants to reach out, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yep. They can find me online. My website is laurenfaycoaching.com. I also have a big Instagram presence where I do most of my behind the scenes at Lauren Fay Coaching. Best place to find me.
Excellent. Lauren, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your story. Keep doing the great work.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. Great
Yeah,
conversation.
absolutely. Great to meet you.